Welcome y'all to As Told by Queers. I'm Micah.
I'm Portia. And niggas, we've been gone for a minute. We back. It's been way too many months, a whole ass 2020, and we back. And we ain't breathing. If you didn't pick up the breathing in 2020 as one of the many coping mechanisms to live, I'm sorry. We did it for your whole last season. We ain't doing it today. Hello. Welcome to
Period and period. Strap on in, y'all, because basically we here today to tell y'all where the fuck we've been this whole time. And like when we've been gone for a cool minute, because like at first, like when we were going over this episode, we were like, okay, so how long have we been gone? And me being dramatic, I'm like, a year. Like we've been gone a year. But I think we calculated maybe like 8 months, at least 8 months.
It's been some months. It's been some months.
What you're going to realize, it has been a long time. What you're going to realize with this episode is that there's two different perspectives of where we've been. And I just want to go out and say, Portia left me, y'all. She left me. Did she leave me for another woman? I don't know. We're going to find...
Definitely didn't leave you for another woman.
Excuse me, for another they? I don't know.
Wow.
But I guess we'll find out once we get into the shits.
Okay, Micah, you live your life, baby.
All right, so I think the best way to tell this story is to start with the timeline. You see the attitude. See, if y'all not gonna be able to see this, so I don't know if we're doing the visual or not. We'll see.
We're definitely doing the visual. We have to do a visual. If we've been gone for this long, we're gonna not give them a visual. What kind of trash is this?
Okay, so y'all gonna get the visual. So please, while I'm telling my story, just look at Portia's face the whole time, because she is totally gonna have a complete attitude about this situation. All right, so
because you alive.
In March, aka the top of COVID, when shit really hit the fan, like literally the week that they said they were gonna shut shit down, me and Portia hit a moment where we had a real like kind of like a different perspective and disagreement on the podcast. I'm gonna be gentle with it. And then what happened? And kind of from there, it kind of just like snowballed. And she finally hit me up and was like, I need some space. She left me, basically, is what she did.
I asked for space, and not just space from you. I took space from everyone and everything.
But from my perspective, it was like she took space from me. She didn't say I need space from a lot of people right now. She just said I need space. And this was after my old Scorpio ass was like, hey, I miss you as my friend, da-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Even with the conversations on Zoom, we even had conversations on Zoom, and I cried. I shedded a fucking tear, okay?
That's because you love me. Get over it.
Anywho, so this nigga still left.
I took space.
All right. So, and we're going to go more into detail. This is a part 1, part 2, because hello, it's been a year. And understand, there will be dramatics. So even though it was 8 months, it's been a year in my mind.
7 years. We've been gone. We had 3 kids. I don't even know what happened.
Okay. So while, Portia asked for his space, and then I was like, all right, you got to get your shit together. Fine. You ain't about to beg nobody to be with you and shit. So I went about my business, right? And let her tell it. It was only 3 weeks.
It was like 2. It was literally like a solid 10 days. And you're talking about this like I went out of the country. Continue.
It was 3 months, y'all. 3 months, period. Period, point blank. That's what my timeline said. My timeline says March is when Portia left. June is when Portia came back into my life. Period.
Okay.
So then Portia came back to my life. Would you like to tell your side of why you came back?
why I came back, nigga, because I love you. Duh. First and foremost, it wasn't like I left you. I needed space. My life was on fucking fire. And unless I put it out, it wasn't like anybody else was going to show up to put it out. I had no more time and energy and or bandwidth to do anything else at all whatsoever. So I took the space that I needed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I took the space.
So then she came back, but we had a conversation on like basically what happened and what transpired or whatever the case may be. It was a conversation, but it wasn't like the that really oh, she came back. I would say some weeks later, maybe a month, I figured out that I was trans masculine. So then that was a whole thing. And you know, her being my friend, I let her know, fully supported. Like my chosen family and my fiance, of course, they were very, very supportive. And so that's the whole thing. That's for part 2. So be patient, y'all. Be patient. I know you like, what the fuck? I know. Be patient.
Happened.
We'll right, it happened.
Imagine my face after being like, so what happened? Oh, okay, a lot has happened. Okay. In 3 weeks.
Yeah, in 3 months, y'all. So, and that's how you know it was long. Anyways, so then, because it gave me time and space to really be alone in a way. My partner is always busy, and I quit my job at the top of the year. So I really had time to like really spend with myself. So I find it interesting that all of this came down to that. There was a ripple effect, but we'll talk about that in part 2. Then, so that was September. October. So me and Portia, we work for PM Lightwork. And so we had a client that we just so happened to be, you know, working on. And we had to meet her in San Diego, and it was a nice little lunch situation. So I came, and I don't know why, but like there was this energy between us that we didn't know it.
You're missing a piece.
Okay, please plug yourself in.
I went with another client to the Wizard and was furious. Like I had this really terrible, embarrassing experience with a psychic that I really love. And you came like the next moment. And that was my first time physically seeing you in person since then. It was like the night we went down to San Diego. We stayed at the homegirl's house. We were sitting at the kitchen table, and it was like something shifted.
Right. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Right. That's what happened. Okay, so you were having a crisis, and you were having a whole situation, but that's because you went to go see a wizard. Of course, the wizard's not going to tell you just great things. They're going to like uncover some stuff, and you just going to be sitting there uncovered, naked.
But if you remember said situation with the wizard, it wasn't all fucking that. It was
the other part that we cannot mention. We can't mention that because we can't. But anywho, trash ass motherfuckers was being trash. And so anyways, I just so happened was like, hey, I'm in town. We're about to go see this client, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, let's kick it. So I went and saw Portia, and like, I was just like validating Portia, like on basic stuff, you know, like, but I felt like there was this different, and I was just being me. And then I just left. But like Portia, from her perspective, it was like, that was amazing. And
that was amazing. Yo, fucking ass, dramatic. That was amazing. What it was that I was not standing in my worth, and I was in a situation where I was being shit on pretty badly, and like in front of people in a very embarrassing way. And everybody around me was like, fuck that nigga, fuck it, what's the fucking point? And I was like, no, and like you literally showed up and were like, nah. And something was like, oh, okay, nah, I can be with that. Oh, okay, really? They really are shit. Okay.
Right.
That's what happened.
So then we met with the client, y'all. And then the client was like looking back and forth because it was a 4 situation. So client over here, another coworker here, I'm here, Portia's across the way. And so we're able to see each other really quickly, but Portia's energy was really, 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 really loud to me. And then
Just my energy? Just mine was the only loud one, right? Because we're not dramatic over here. Continue.
It was really, really loud. And so I was like, okay, cool. And I kept glancing or whatever, but I just think it was, and also me, I was really excited to see Portia. Let me just let that be known. I was really, really excited to see her. And so the client realized it, and the client's like looking back and forth, like, what is going on between them? Like, what's going on? So yeah. And so then that's when we realized, or I would say that's when I realized there was a shift of like, oh, this person. And I kind of realized it before because I was missing her when she was gone. And then like, it was kind of like a gradual thing for me. And I was like, oh, I really, like, you're really important to me. Like, you're not just like a friend that we just do the podcast. Like, no, I like you in my life. And I actually really like you when we're not working together. And I think we needed that moment to kind of like, good thing the podcast wasn't going on. Good thing that like our work situation was for the most part separate. So we were in different departments basically. And we were able to really nurture our friendship, just friends. So that's when I realized that was very important to me. What about you?
I think in like that day, sitting at lunch, like looking across from you, I think for me, what was the night before was like one of the most vulnerable positions I had ever been in, because I'd been scraped the fuck of 2020 like this for the whole year. So by the time that thing happened, I was so done that I was just like, just roll me over. Like, I'm ready to like check out and come back on the next lifetime. Like, I'm good. Like, I was done. Like, it was a really dark place for me. So the way that you showed up in that moment, something really shifted for me in the energy, and I couldn't name it and I kept trying to figure it out. Like, I'm like, what's different? Like, what's happening? Why has it changed? And something shifted. I remember sitting at that table and being like, oh, this is my nigga for real. Like, this is different. And it was different than any energy that I've ever been around since and had ever been around. Like, I think that's the context too of this situation, is we didn't know each other that well. When we started the podcast, I'd known you for a couple of years, but we hadn't been like in daily or even weekly or even monthly communication. I'm still very, very close to your fiance. And that was kind of like our line of communication. And then when we had the podcast, this was kind of the thing that we did. And then on that day, it was like, oh no, like, you are my friend. And wait a minute. Like, you're actually a very good friend. And then like, I want to say maybe within like a week, it was like, we're best friends, tell me nothing. That's it.
It was very, very quick.
It was very,
like,
very
once
quick.
we came back, it was very quick. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I would also say this was before there was a type of when I went there was a type of masculine energy that you also didn't see that shifted. Because remember, the dog was barking the fuck out of me, and the dog only barks at men. So like, I also came with a different type of energy than normal. It was an energy that I've been pressing down that I let go. And so that was another shift that you were like, what is that? Like, what's there? There's something, because you kept saying, what's there?
I kept trying to figure it out. And I will also say there was a distinct shift for me because you were more of who you are. That was the other piece. It's like, I didn't think that there was anything missing previously, but then the minute you showed up, I was like, oh, there's something different. You felt more aligned, and like we were having a conversation and it felt like we could really see each other. Like, there didn't feel like there was any barrier. It was just us being able to meet in a conversation and me to actually really see you. That shifted. And you came with a whole different masculine. It was like you left one person and came back a whole different person. I was like, what? I haven't been gone this long. Like, first of all, who are you? This is not the person I'm used to.
Right.
In a lot of ways, more than just physical.
Clarity, you left, and when you came back, I was a different person.
My God. I'm going to say it right now again today in front of all of the soul group. Honey, I took space and a break, and everybody in the soul group, please know that when you need to take space, you're welcome to take space. And I would say that our friendship is better because of it.
I agree. You know, you just know I'm about to give you a hard time. So whatever.
Forever. Forever.
So then after the Amanda situation where we all met this client and stuff like that, and we really was in each other's energy, Portia was like, we made an agreement to see each other that following weekend for whatever reason. So she came down. It was fun as shit. We went to the pool. We went to the lake. Like it was perfect, right? And Portia was like, okay, so there's gonna be Micah Fridays. I'm gonna come down here every week. And I was like, hell motherfucker, yes, this is fun. Like, what are you talking about? Say less, right? So ever since then, there's been Micah Friday. That's what they're called, Micah Fridays. And like we saw each other pretty much every single Friday until pretty much Portia moved, which was it was a bittersweet situation. It really, really was, because it was sweet because it was like, yes, like you're able to get your own place. It's perfect, y'all. The shit is perfect. It's perfect. She's surrounded by every fucking shopping center situation known to man. She's freaking in a dope ass fucking apartment, 2-bedroom, has her own office, hella cute.
We in it.
And yeah, but it's just 4 hours away from me. But anywho, we had enough time, I would say about 3 months, to really like do the Micah Fridays and have a good time and stuff like that. So, and we really were able to like make a great foundation of our friendship. So yeah, it ended fine. And from what I got from that space, even though I give her a hard time, it made me realize and it made me like have to check myself with like, people can take breaks and they'll come back. And it doesn't mean you did anything to them or whatever the case may be. Because I was like, what did I do? Like, blah, blah, blah. It's just sometimes they need space. And you can also ask for that space. And I don't think I ever asked space from a friend before. So I didn't know how it was going to turn out or whatever. But it made our relationship even better. So yes, I pouted, but I got over it.
Pouting currently. Fucking ass. Still pouting in this moment. We'll pout in the future. Scorpio, the forever pout.
Hey, you chose me as your best friend, so you already know what you're getting. You already know the heat.
Surely fucking did.
So yeah, that's where we've been. Anything else you want to say? I feel like we wrapped this up pretty well.
I mean, I think the important thing for me to say is that this podcast was the beginning, I think, of the absolute best part of 2020 to me, which was a whole Micah. Like, I've literally, you are absolutely the best friend that I've ever had. And I'm over the moon about the fact that I get to have friendship that's this deep. And to me, we needed to kind of go to the far extreme of what that looked like personally.
Yeah, we're pretty dramatic, if you guys haven't realized.
Just a sprinkle. Libra placements, water placements.
It's just known to be dramatic.
It is.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely have this has been such a great friendship, one that I've never had before, on just vulnerability. We come up with slogans like 2%, like it's just a different type of dynamic that I'm totally here for. And I didn't think, it was weird because at first when we started the really getting our foundation and having the Micah Fridays, I was like, I've never had a friend I was able to do this that I haven't been sexual with, or it didn't turn sexual, or like we didn't fall in love with one another. So like I was like, oh shit, this is what you're walking into. But I'm glad that I really leaned forward and like did it, because man, the gifts that keep coming and that I get from our friendship is great, for sure.
Which was the thing. I personally, it's why I'm super grateful to be back on the podcast, is because this really was the beginning of one of the most impactful relationships in my life. Like, really was the podcast, because I think we were cool, but we weren't close. And this had us have some kind of conversations that brought us closer. And then even the break from this was the thing that brought us the closest.
Right. I feel like it was a full circle type of situation. It was like we had to do that so that the podcast could even be even better, you know. So I'm excited. I'm excited. All right. So that's part one, y'all. That's the timeline. Now, part two is you get into the nitty gritty of what happened to us, like actually the details, because we had to give you the timeline first. So, I'm supposed to go first, right?
Yeah, you turned into a whole they them. Here we are, ready, set, go.
It's the straw for me. Of course, it's pink. Okay, so yeah, y'all. Okay, as I don't think. First of all, there's always been something around my gender. There's always been something around just like my identity, right? But I would say that it was just something I could not figure out. I was trying to fit in a box. I was trying to like figure it out. And everybody, if you're like non-binary, then you have to look like non-binary. You have to like check off all the things. And so since I had breaks from my friends and my friend and like I really just had a time to step back. In 2020, I was already deciding like I'm going to choose myself, right? And I'm gonna do it in a way that's just like I've never seen before. That's how we started 2020. Quit my job. I was like, I'm going to do the job that I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I would say in September on 8/8, which is Lion Gate, which is pretty much doors open. There's going to be some type of revelation. It's a good time to manifest. I woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning. And I would say 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, which is still like God's hour, right? So, anyways, woke up and God gave me this vision of when I was a child. And I was very masculine presenting. And I just remembered it was like God started to talk to me of like, this is what I'm trying to show you. This is you pretty much in your most authentic self. And this is what you have pressed down. And like, I was like, oh shit. And I knew it was God because God decided to wake me up at a certain hour where it's quiet and they talk to me in a certain way of like where I know it's them. And I just started to cry. I just cried. And of course I look over and I wake up my partner and I told my partner like I feel like I'm transited. And my partner's just like, yeah, I know, baby. And like pretty much kind of like goes back to sleep. So I tell her about the dream and then I tell her like I think that I'm trans. Like I think that I'm trans. Now, mind you, even though I'm part of the community, there's sections to the community and you can fall into one of the sections and you can have like your friends and your peers be also part of the section that you are in. I don't have a lot of trans people around me, so I don't really hear about their perspective a lot. I'm only just now hearing about their perspective a lot from just the simple fact that you just hear it in the media more, right? So I had to do my own fucking digging, honestly. And so it never ran across me like, are you trans? Well, it did, but I was like, nah, I'm not trans. Like, it was like, no, that's not the thing. I don't feel like I want to go to the whole other end of the spectrum, but I know that I'm masculine and I know that I'm a woman. Like, I was born a woman. So that's when my brain was caught up. And that's why trans never was like, yeah, like all the way, yeah. And so, anywho, we finally woke up. Well, Babe finally woke up and was like, okay, so this is what you want to do. Okay. And then she's like, here's all the resources. Like, boom. Very supportive, didn't panic, very calm, very calm. Like I freaked out calm because I was like, I'm expecting more of a class, but why am I expecting it from my queer partner? Anywho.
He's kind of the best.
Dope as fuck. Okay. Like dope as shit. All right. Anywho, so what happened? Cool. So I'm doing my research, just diving into YouTube, just reading books and shit like that. I'm looking up Two Spirited. I'm looking up non-binary. I'm looking up everything under the sun. But I started with trans. So when you research trans, of course, it's either trans woman or trans man. They don't. So I'm going into it as trans man. And as I'm going through the process, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting angry because I'm like, I don't fall all the way on that end of the spectrum. I'm not like, don't call me, like I don't have an issue around my period. I don't have an issue with at the time with like my my breasts. However, there was a thing around how my shirts fit. So I was like, there is an issue, but it's not an issue. Like I understand that they're titties. Like I get it. Like it was just like there's just certain things that didn't line up. So anyway, so I'm searching more. Then non-binary came, and I was like, okay, well, uh, I understand that there's a binary. Like I was just confused. And then what else happened? Oh, then it was pronouns. So then I was like, well, he, him. Let me just try it out. So having a great partner, she was like, look, you could just try out the pronoun, see if you like it. And then if you don't like it, try another pronoun. Like you define yourself basically. And so I tried out he, him, and it just didn't work for me, especially because like I just didn't feel it. I didn't feel like a he. I didn't feel like a him. But I identify more with what if you are a cis man or if you are a man in general of like how they are, how energy comes to them or how they exude their energy. So anywho, then another thing, I was like, they, them, like I'm not multiple people. Again, I'm not understanding. Not understanding. I had to learn. I literally had to like I was a child and I had to learn how to do this identity thing and really find out what fit for me. So I'm like Z them. I'm doing all of the different types of things. And I was like, you know what? After I think there was a moment where it was me and this other guy, we were lifting up this fucking couch. And one of our close friends that we met during the COVID situation was like he. And so he's calling me, I mean, she's calling me he. And I just did not like it. I just didn't. And I was like, I'm going to change this. I don't want this. So I was like, they, them. So then I was like, I'm going to try out they, them. And it actually works. I was very, very pleased with the pronoun. And so here that is. So that is my pronouns, y'all. They, them. And what else? What else happened? After like a month or so, I came out to my family. That was tragic. It was tragic. Okay. I could totally go into detail about that, but I feel like that will be led more for another topic. But anyways, I decided to before like I start doing all these different types of changes and stuff like that to let them know what was happening because out of respect for them, they should at least know, right? So I let them know. And that was like my main decision of just like, oh, you really about to choose yourself, like on a whole nother level. And so that's when I did that. Um, and I think that's pretty much it. Through this journey, it was really I got on testosterone. My doctor was amazing. My provider was very, very like, you know what? You could go through this journey and you could figure out if this is something you want to do. You could figure out if this is something you don't want to do. It was very validating. And I actually cried on my first visit because I was just like, oh, thank you. Like I just for once I felt like a stranger, like someone who didn't know me, someone who doesn't already love me is just validating me. And I was just like, that felt good. Um, so yeah, did I miss something, Portia? Is there something that I should definitely say that I'm missing? Because I feel like I'm missing something.
I mean, it's a big journey.
It
it's
is.
a big discovery. And
Yeah,
so it changed everything. So it's like
absolutely.
every little piece of life I feel like was adjusted because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything. How I identify, how my partner identifies. In a well, not really. but how someone would perceive our relationship now. Because they would more so see us as heterosexual for the most part instead of like lesbians. So, but yeah, I still, and there was a chance that she may not be happy with that. Like my partner may not be happy, may not want that for their life. So I was just like, okay, what am I, what am I going to do? Like, am I willing to choose myself over my relationship? Like these were so many of the things that I had to like go through and work through. And yeah, I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that that process is what I went through, and I came down to terms that like really fit for me, which is trans masculine, non-binary, and I'm queer when it comes to my sexuality, which was another discovery because then I was like, okay, men are a thing. Like this is a thing for me. How much am I interested in men? Blah blah blah. Like, and that was a whole another thing because I had to check myself because when you're in a lesbian world, for the most part, there is no taking a dip in men. There is no, we don't really talk about men. Can we come to that agreement?
I mean, I as a bisexual person flagged daily. So yes.
Okay. So it's a thing. And so like, because I stepped out of that, of like lesbian situation, and I'm not going to say all, but just that situation of what I was consumed of, I was really able to ask myself the question of what would you want out of a man or whatever the case may be. Is this something that you want to discover? And even allow my partner who is queer and always has identified as queer for their sexuality. Like, okay, men are a thing. And I think it would be fun to get her on the podcast to talk about her perspective. But yeah, this has been great. I've been able to sculpture myself, honestly, besides the shit that's been the fire of my family. Besides that, this situation has been dope. I've made a great decision for my fucking life. All the things that are coming to me has been really great. I've been able to stand up for myself more. I've been able to really just like love myself for who I am. I've fallen in love with myself. I'm more attracted to myself. The pleasure that I'm getting is great. The physicalness of me it's more appealing to me, and hence why I'm saying me. Like it was important for me to feel this way for myself, not other people validating me. Is what I'm trying to say. It's like I was happy with what I was seeing. And I think I got to a point where I wasn't happy and I'm trying to figure out what's not making me happy. And I finally figured out something that would make me happy. And that's just me choosing myself unapologetically. So that's where the fuck I've been. And yeah, I'm what, 3.5 months on T. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Whew. And it got me back to the podcast, but we'll talk about that later. So where the fuck you been?
Well, okay, wait. You did miss one thing. You had a ton of fantastic therapy. A ton of fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I knew I was gonna miss a part. So at the top of COVID, everything happened at the top of COVID. Okay, at the top of COVID, I put myself into therapy because again, I was waking up feeling sad randomly, just in the morning, right when I woke up, and it would be for like 10 minutes, and I'm confused because I'm in this beautiful home. I'm like next to someone I really love. There's literally, I'm fine financially. So I'm like, what is wrong? Like, why am I sad? Like, what is going on? And I could have pinpointed. I'm very much of a person that could dive into myself and figure out some shit. I could not figure it out. So I put myself into personal therapy. But that was a huge part of this whole situation. Portia, what the fuck? How can I forget the shit? Okay, this is why I should have.
With your transness along the way.
Oh my gosh.
Process it with month over month over month over month.
Yes.
And then it affected your relationship. You had someone else to process it with month over month.
After month, right. Oh my God, this was a huge part. So before all that happened, because I just skipped a whole section of what happened before September. So September is when I figured I was trans. But before that, there was therapy, personal therapy. I went in there, y'all, about a sadness I felt. It geared around my family because I was like, I just don't feel like I can, like fully be myself. Scorpio, darkness, personal therapy. All right, cool. Then my therapist asked me a question of like, and this was the one that hit. And I think that's when like this just kept turning. It just got bigger and it got bigger. So the question was, if you leave everybody out, if you could be whoever you wanted to be, what would it be? And I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like basically, like I can't do that. I can't be who I am. I'm like, nobody can, blah, 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 blah. And so it stuck with me because I was just insulted by the question. I was just like, why do you have me over here asking, like, trying to answer something that it's not possible? You know what I mean? And I just chewed on that. Like that thing really, really stuck with me. And I'm mad that I forgot, but it's okay because this is a good piece to add. Thank you, Portia. That's why you the best. All right, cool. So yeah, it stuck with me. I chewed on it and I chewed on it, and we pretty much took sessions from there. And like even then, just not, there was like a hint of like you're trans, but you ain't, and this was inner. This was very like dormant, but you could feel it. I could feel it there, but it was dormant. It was like, you can't open up that hatch. Hell no, nah, bruh. Like, you know the type of heat you're gonna get. You know the type of heat you're gonna get. And so I was just like, okay, all right. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. And little by little through personal therapy, that's when I like slowly started to like give myself permission to do certain things and to say certain things, blah, blah, blah. Then I got into couples counseling and realized that like me not speaking up for myself is gonna fuck up also my relationship because I'm gonna be resentful and then da 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 da. So that happened. So then I got into couples therapy and they kind of all ended at the same time. But yeah, that was a key part because then I was like, all right, well, this is me choosing myself. And I think the dream was more of like God saying, this would be you choosing yourself. This is a thing that you're not allowing yourself to give yourself. Just so you know, just in case, because you ain't about to blame me. You ain't about to blame the universe on why you didn't know. So to be clear, I'm going to wake you up at 5. I'm going to literally talk to you and show you a visual of like what it is. And I was like, all right, cool, all right. And one thing about me, once I see it, once I make it my mind, it's like, boom, we doing it. Because I'm just going to feel like I'm not being successful. I'm not being who I am. So.
A projector on parade.
Yeah, and that's what it felt like. I've almost watched probably every trans situation on YouTube possible. Just obsessed.
Fantastic. We love a good research. It's a big decision. Yeah. You gotta know all the things.
It's a huge decision. It is not something to take lightly at all.
You've done well, Wes. It looks good on you, honey.
Thank you.
You do it well. And there's a piece there that's important for me that you were brave enough to see, because how many of us get the vision and are like, nah, you could have just kept believing you never really be who you wanted to be.
Right.
That's a thing.
It is a thing. And like from that it's going to be so much unhappiness. So I'm glad that I said yeah and was like, all right, here we go, jump off the cliff. And I totally jumped off the cliff because I was like, I'm gonna tell my family. Once I tell them, you can't go back. Technically, you can't. You can do whatever the fuck you want. And that's what I realized. You can do whatever the fuck you want, y'all. Whatever you want, whatever it looks like, And I think like at first, when I was like, oh, like if I'm trans, I have to be trans man, because I was not educated in that area, and I'm getting frustrated. And I'm just like, no, you don't have to do that. There were so many times I had to like check myself. It's like, no, you can look however you want. You can be trans man and dress and have a dress on, blah, blah, blah. You could do whatever you want. You could be trans man and be feminine. You could be trans man and use your hands a lot. Like you could do these things. You know, you can be transmasculine and do these things. And I was just like, at first I was frustrated, but then I had to like come down and be like, you know what? You're going to sculpture yourself the way the fuck you want to sculpt yourself. And you have every right to do that. Every fucking right to do that. And you have every right to ask for somebody to respect it. And if they don't, you could do as you may with that.
Yeah.
So here for it. Here for the growth. Here for the growth. It was so necessary. 2020 was like, it will never be forgotten. That is for sure. I'll never forget it. It was a crazy fucking year.
Same. Never forget. 2020, never forget.
Man. All right, Portia. You dropped your basket.
Woo! to riff off of that, where I was for those months, those 3 weeks to 3 months, I believe it confirmed or deny the timeline. 3 weeks to 3 months. For me, what the culmination of it was really around the gnaw. Like, I think I was in a space where I had been getting visions and visions and visions and visions and visions of like, sis, you sure you want to keep up with this? This feels like you probably should do something about this. And I was like, nah, that's cute for other people, but I don't get to have that kind of life. That's cute for other people, but that would fuck up my life too much if I needed to do that. And that was kind of like the theme of where I was at right before the quarantine hit. So I was helping to facilitate a retreat when we were gone. And then I literally came back like that weekend, and it was like everything shut down, everything's quarantined. And it was maybe my 6th month into working from home, kind of like an entrepreneur situation. And all of a sudden, everything was up for negotiation. Financially, with my home life, the world burning down outside. And I'm kind of left with this reality of like, I don't really know what's going to happen next. And I learned about myself that I am a fear-forward person. So if I am in a situation where there's that much change all over the place, it felt very unstable. It felt very, very unstable for me. And I think this is the thing about 2020. 2020 was a dumpster fire, a clear and absolute dumpster fire. Every single element of my life was up for negotiation. My family life, my relationship, how I felt about myself, how I felt about my friends, how I made my money, how I fed myself, my health, my mentality, my mentals, my spirit, every single thing was up for negotiation. And what's interesting about having a best friend who decides to transition their whole life is you're present every single week with that. You can do whatever the fuck you want, and you can sculpt and create your life to look the way that feels aligned for you. And if you don't, it is going to be sculpted whether you sculpt it or not. So it was really, really confronting for me. And I couldn't run. Like, I need y'all to grasp like the reality of my situation. I was staying with my parents in one room where I had an entire house full of shit in my one room. So I'm in my one room with about the size of a queen mattress to live in, and then about the size of like a king mattress to work in. And that's it, surrounded by my shit 24/7. And then surrounded by my family, right? And I'm sure any of you know what it's like when you go live independently for a really long time and think you've grown, and then come back in your 30s, stay with your parents for a couple months to kind of like get things back together. I was not prepared for the level of real generational shit that was like all of a sudden in my face. I went from being the fucking shiny penny in my family, what you call it the prodigal son, to being the black sheep in months. Because there was all of a sudden like all of these things happening, and everyone's having a 2020 and everyone's having to deal with it. And it was like, okay, I had to also choose myself. And I had to learn what choosing myself looked like when there was no agreement around me. And it really started with my family of like, I'm not going to tolerate this behavior. I'm not going to deal with it. So y'all are going to have to deal with me being upset. What me being upset looks like is I'm cutting myself off from everybody else. and I lived with my family. So you can imagine what that's like when you have to go fucking make toast, or when you gotta go, you know, to a family function. It was like surrounded by it all day long. And on top of that, I also realized that like I had also been saying nah to my feelings about most things and just going. Like I had a life where I just ran head first at shit so that I didn't necessarily have to feel some of the more uncomfortable feelings. And 2020 made it to where I could not no longer run from those uncomfortable feelings. So part of the reason why I
feelings.
Again, more reasons I blame your fucking ass, because many a night after the podcast, sitting on this nigga's floor with the fiance having a conversation about, are you sure you're actually like feeling that? I'm like, feelings? Who's trying to do that? I got shit to do. Feelings? I'm good. I'm good on that. And then because I am in this kind of work of like looking at feelings and like looking at spirit and being a coach, I'm thinking I'm doing it. Totally not doing it. Totally not doing it. I'm like, totally in it, spiritually bypassing, totally in this, emotionally bypassing, just gone.
Yep. What are you feeling? You just say what's actually happening. You don't say not a lick of a feeling. That is also something that I learned in therapy.
But just convinced that those are feelings. What do you mean?
Yeah, totally. There has been plenty of times that my therapist was like, so you told me what's happening. So what do you feel about it? And then I'll say something, that's not a feeling. And then I have to sit there because she'll just get quiet. I'm just like, bruh, fuck it. Clearly I don't know what feelings are. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. You got your point across.
And you can imagine my highfalutin ass thinking I'm doing something because I'm over here living a certain life, coaching a certain way, being a certain way, can clearly see other people, especially bypassing, emotionally bypassing, not seeing it on my own. But instead of like normal life, where these things roll out over the course of years, maybe decades, 2020 was like, you get a week, bitch, next week. You get a week, bitch, next week. You get a week, bitch, next week. Okay, so let's figure out all the things that you hate. We're gonna make you see them right this close. It was so difficult for me to deal with because I had been letting myself not feel things for a really long time. And as somebody that's so empathic, as somebody that is very deeply connected to my emotions and spiritual state when I need to be, to have the veil kind of lifted and have it be on all the time, it was like I was constantly in a state of raw. And it got to a place where I was in such a dark place, it was difficult to get out of bed every day. It was difficult to want to keep living. Like it was that serious for me multiple times. There were multiple times in 2020 where I considered checking myself into an institution because I could not deal with my reality. Like it was that serious for me. On top of juxtaposed up against everything that I'd ever dreamed of happening, like the best friendships that I had ever had, the best place that I had ever been in my career-wise, more dreams than I had ever wanted to have being achieved, but I was like miserable 70% of the time because I just couldn't be with it. And I think most of the time when I was taking really the break from all of my friends and family, because that break really looked like me letting myself do nothing but work and then be in a bed and cry for 3 days if that's what it took. Like I'm a Libra, I'm shiny, I'm bright, pretty Portia. Like I never let myself feel sad like for long extended periods of time. I was one of those people who'd be like depressed. Girl, where? I got shit to do. People need to eat. Like who gonna take care of me if I'm depressed? I never let myself even get to that level of depressed. And until my body would poop out on me. And I was in a situation where my body was not pooping out on me. My mind was just like, look, bitch, you're going to look. And you're going to have to make a decision. And I'm going to have to live with myself if I keep saying that I'm not going to choose myself. And choosing myself looked like letting me see all of it. And a lot of it was dark. And I needed the space to be able to see it and not hear anybody else's opinion about it but mine. And not have anybody else's thoughts about what I should do but mine. And it was necessary for me to do it. And I did it. And I think it was hard as shit. It's still hard as shit. Truthfully, it's still hard putting the pieces together because I'm a baby when it comes to it. But I think overall, the main thing for me in 2020, to this day, I will say 2020 was the best year of my life. Best year of my life because I finally was brave enough to do for me, to advocate for myself, to fight for myself, to fight me for me, to, you know, really let myself be supported in the ways that I needed to be supported in, let myself fall when it looked like that, let myself look really shitty. Like I let myself look as bad as it looked instead of having to pretend and put this facade on about how cute I needed to be and how it needed to go. And I let myself kind of like share some of the energy of the best of like, okay, what don't I fuck with? And what am I willing to do to fix it? What am I willing to give up? Even if it's every dollar in my pocket and every fucking ounce of my mental sanity, what am I willing to give up to get it? And that was like all the way up until like October. I was kind of really in it and kind of going through it. And it culminated with that trip to the Wizard. Post the Wizard, maybe like a week or so after that, I went back to said Wizard and the Wizard was like, look, I know this happened. It was really fucked up. I'm sorry it went down like that, but I think you need some healing. And I got some like energetic healing. And that also was like a second to me, the big half of the year that like shifted everything. Cause then all of a sudden I couldn't turn any of it off. A bitch felt like a Roman candle 24/7. Gifts on 100, feelings on 1,000. Like there was no like irritated. It's like irate. There was no like, you know, I'm okay. I'm like ecstatic. Everything really opened up for me. And that's kind of where I'm at now. And that was really when we really started to get close because I was like, okay, here's the fucking thing. Like, I'm not in the business of doing this life the way that I've been doing it. And I'm making different decisions.
Yeah, and I feel like we were paralleling one another. And then we became one another's kind of like support of like, look, this is what the fuck we be doing. Don't do that shit. Don't go down that way. Like, because I have a Libra rising. She is a Libra sun. So like a lot of, you know, choosing ourselves are very, very similar. So I felt like naturally, like things that we struggled with them together. So it was natural that we kind of like came together and like banded in that type of way. And I think that's been the best. I would say also 2020 has been the best year. And I know that's wild to fucking say, but
wild to say.
So much came from it. So much came from it. And yeah. It's been wild. And I think that's what helped us come to even this podcast and like why we're back here. Because we could have just kept it as friends and low key, like literally just we're gonna have fun every time we see one another. And like we could have totally did that. But I think that the reason why we came back to the podcast is because there was so much that we learned from this situation of giving ourselves permission in general, as you guys see. And I think that we had to give it to the soul group. We had to come back and tell the soul group this. And I think that even our dynamic is 10 times better than like what it was before, 100 times better than what it was before. Because I think that we were able to establish a foundation. And I think that the permission conversation has to be had. Like, and there's so many perspectives. And we were just like, yeah, this is what it's going to be about. Absolutely. And we were like, we got to come back, you know? And I think that was the most important part, was us separating as friends, as people who do podcasts together, and naturally coming back together. And the podcast was really the last piece. So
it's so funny. And it's so true. And I also feel like what I realized about this permission conversation is that it is not a lot of niggas are giving it to themselves still to this day.
I challenge y'all. Soul group. What are you not giving yourself permission to do? This is the perfect time for me to say, okay, we're going to end there. This is what the season is going to be about in different ways. I'm excited to, you know, really, really dive into this with you, Portia, and really dive in it with you guys as a soul group. You know what I mean? And I want to hear you guys' perspective. I want to really challenge you guys if you didn't do it in 2020, because 2020 was like, you're going to do this how it, like, it was like the theme. Like, it was the theme of 2020. It was like, you're going to slow all the way down and we're gonna blow up everything, and we'll see what you do with that. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna challenge y'all because I challenge myself every day. Every day.
Do it to it. I'm interested. I'm also super excited, Sober, to introduce you to a bunch of really dope and interesting individuals and conversations. I think that will have you be thinking of different things that you can give yourself permission to have. I think it's a conversation for us that we've learned is easier said than done. So I'm happy to kind of dive into this with you, Micah. Like, what more can we do? How can it get juicier? How can it get more delicious? Because we already learned we not finna just not fuck with it. Life gotta be good. I'm not doing mediocre. No, I know you ain't.
It's not even in our nature anymore. It's not even in our nature. So I'm here to enjoy it. I'm here to challenge myself. I'm here to make it look ugly, and then it'll get pretty, and then it'll get ugly again. I'm here for the ride, literally.
Fully committed to the ugly. Fully committed to letting it get ugly. Because I'm always going to be cute. Libra, gang, gang, cheers.
All right, Portia, take us out, man. Take us out. All that to say goodbye, y'all. We should tell them the updates. So usually we come out once a week. But we're doing bi-weekly situations because that's what we're deciding. And so yeah, and then maybe during the week that we're not coming out, we'll do something fun, like have, IG live or something like that. So if you don't have us on Instagram, please go follow us on Instagram, which is As Told by Queers Podcast.
I'm gonna play on Clubhouse. So if you play on Clubhouse, let's go play on Clubhouse.
I mean, I'm gonna need an invite. I don't have that many, people in my life. I'm not that cool like Portia is, so I haven't got the Clubhouse invite yet.
I will invite you to Clubhouse, Micah. The trash that you say to me sometimes.
I'm just saying. Anywho, so yeah, there's gonna be some fun things that we're gonna play around with and have fun with, and I'm excited that we are back. Yay!
Good to be back with you, friend.
I know. There was supposed to be this. What color did we decide?
I don't know if we did.
I think it's season turquoise. Nah, that's not a color. I mean, that's not a color on. Well, I guess it's a color on the rainbow.
No,
it's not. It's not the primary colors though. But every color is in the rainbow. All right, what's the color? I'm gonna have y'all decide. I can't decide.
Somebody DM Micah what the color is, please. Please.
All right, y'all. Y'all have a good one. Peace.